million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him. And 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
The Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability. RTD Live Talk, Wednesday, the 2nd day of May 2018. Trying something different tonight. So tonight I'm on a countdown, trying to do 30 minutes or less and cover a lot of things in 30 minutes, and then open up the telephone lines the last 10 minutes of tonight's chat. And then other than that, I want to get to some questions or comments left in the video section, and then what else? We just want to cover different things today. Do something different. Try to get something more routine, something more set. So as always, before I actually get started, want to check in and see who's tuning in tonight. So as of now, I'm trying to make sure I am live. And so it shows a go on my end, but yet unfortunately I can't see myself to actually see what the questions are like, but yet I see we have about 17 or 20 or so chimed in. So looking forward to having a great conversation tonight, getting a chance to find out what's going on out here. What are some things on your mind? Let me refresh my page, maybe something will pop up. So try to make sure I'm live. And as of now, I am not on my end, so I can't see questions on my side. So let me try something different. Before I begin, I want to make sure I can see my screen. So let me try something different here. Okay, so I see myself. So it looks like trying something different as well. So it looks like I'm streaming from a different connection here. But in the meantime, let's begin and see what's happening over here in the chat section. So we have who's chiming in, where you're chiming in from. Always looking to find out if there's any new viewers joining us this evening. And so if you are new, let me know where you're watching from. And also, as always, I love to open the microphone or open the lines up to find out what's going on in your neck of the woods. So if any news is worth talking about, please feel free to address it to the audience, because that's the most important thing, to provide a voice for the people. Hi, Stan. How high can the U.S. debt go? John Miller, very good question. So in my opinion, the debt can go as high as creditors at any minute once they decide to stop lending funds to the United States of America or playing along with the game. Then at that point the gig is up. And so I think it can go on for quite a while, just because it buys other countries more time to prepare for the day that they say no more to the market manipulation, and there's just a Western world of dominating every single industry and every single market. So I can imagine a couple of countries playing along with it for a lot longer. So hope that answers your question. So as I'm trying to, as always, trying something different, so I got to make sure that I am prepared. And using a new streaming service, it's quite different, so that puts me behind the curve a little bit. So tonight we're going to freestyle with it and have some fun as always. Got a couple articles I want to share with you, and then also read some comments based upon some prior videos I did today as well as throughout the week. So I always love to follow up and find out what your guys' thoughts are in regards to those. Yeah. So let me go back here. I'll save that. So the good thing about this YouTube and streaming live and attempting to do it more often is I always learn something new. I always learn something new. View on watch page. So I always learn something new, trying to better do this so that we can begin waking more people up. So we are 25 minutes into the chat. So let me get to plugging away. So what we have here says Oklahoma City, bless up. We got tornadoes right now. Emperor R, Oklahoma City, you got tornadoes right now. That is unfortunate. Sorry to hear about that, my friend. Definitely be safe down in Oklahoma City. What else we got here? Calling from San Diego, or watching us from San Diego. CLK, welcome. We got John Miller from Maryland. When bond market curve inverts, shouldn't you be holding cash? And so actually hold off on the calls for now. When that clock gets to 10, then I want to take some calls. So in the meantime, want to just get to some questions here. Go through a little bit of a format before we get to calls. So if you don't mind, hold off until we get to that 10-minute mark so I can take calls for the last 10 minutes and then answer and have you address whatever it is you got in your mind. So shouldn't you be holding cash? Yeah. So from that earlier video, cash is going to be a very important thing to hold on to, because especially in that small window of time, not telling how small it can be, but in that small window of time, it's going to be very important, because most people are not going to know what's happening around them anyway. So they're going to run to cash, run to their bank, run to the ATM, try to withdraw as much cash as they can. And then also in deflationary environments, having cash is very beneficial, because everything for the most part is on sale. That's what it seems like. And so if you got cash, you can do a lot of good for yourself. In the meantime, as a response to that monetary policy, unfortunately, the central bankers are going to panic. Our government's going to panic, and then they're going to work together. And as always, based upon history, they're going to come up with some policies that will begin flooding the market or flooding the world with more debt in the form of monetized notes. So at that point, when they start cranking out all those notes, it's good to say, I would imagine you don't want to be holding on to worthless paper, as people realize that the paper is the problem. And that once faith and credit is lost in the paper, then that's when hyperinflationary type of thing sets in. And so will hyperinflation occur? That is a very good guess on our part, because based upon every country around us that have had economic and monetary downturns due to too many promises, too many wars, too much debt, they end up running into the problem of printing too much. Yes. So being that we're in a digitized economy, it's good to say they can probably pump the market with digits as far as just extending some credits, give or take, to some banks and stuff like that. And whoever needs to get some credit on their balance sheet just to promote stability. But then they got to monetize some of that, because all those digits will need to be turned into paper eventually, because people are going to want some paper. So we could run into a hyperinflationary environment, in my opinion. So, but once again, we've never been in this position where the whole world is flooded with debt and everyone's watching the United States of America and the Federal Reserve. So whatever happens here will be, will ripple throughout the rest of the world. But we will be the last currency standing. That's probably good news for those that are worried about it happening right away. I believe it will buy us some time, because there'll be other currencies around us that fail. 50 trillion in debt, 50 Satoshi, DC. You should run for Detroit City Council. Tony B, Detroit City Council. Ah, man, that's a great responsibility. That's a very great responsibility, to put yourself in a public position of being an elected official. Being an elected official is a lot of responsibility, my friend, and I don't take that lightly. And so I believe that being in the public and that nature there, honesty is the most important thing. And being a politician, you're going to be confronted with times where you're going to be presented with opportunities to be compromised. And I wouldn't want to be in that position where I would have to make a choice between right and wrong, because naturally, according to my core, I want to go with the right pathway. But I can imagine that choosing what might be right might not mesh well with the people. And so the people want promises of things that are in their favor. And I'm not for giving away stuff. I'm more so you got to work for it, you got to earn it. And I'm more or less government than anything. So I would want to shrink some things and take away some things. And I don't think people would like that. But that's just me. How long until you think the bond yield curve inverts? Gush 1. Good point, man. And to be honest with you, I'm not an expert. I'm not really efficient, or I'm not well versed in knowing that bond market in that regard. But yet, from what I've gathered, what I've heard, that when it does inverts, that is a pure sign that the economy has flipped upside down as well, and then all hell breaks loose. So the fact that we're close to that is more than enough of a warning sign to me to let me know we're in very dangerous territory. So I don't think we have to actually get to the point of it inverting to realize that things are jacked up, because if we're this close now and it's of conversation, it's being talked about amongst mainstream media as well as alternative media, that lets me know that we are in some deep doo-doo. Deflation before hyperinflation. Definitely. Deflation always tend to occur because that deflation is basically saying credit freezes. And when credit freezes, then no one's lending in the digital area, and the only thing left is paper. And if you had a chance to watch that video earlier, there's not enough paper to go around. So there's going to be some issues. Construct Dismal. Will currently circulated coinage be of any more value than paper bills, even if there's no silver in it? This is of course my guess. I believe it will be, just because if papers become scarce, which it will become in the short term, any small note's going to be worth something, of course, but then the big bill is going to be hoarded because most people won't have change to interact with one another. So having quarters, dimes, nickels, and half dollars or whatever might be sufficient, because it will add up to equal $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, which will be the ideal denomination, I believe, in small exchanges of goods and services. So coins will be important. And then if you happen to have coins with actual silver in it, you might want to hang on to it just a little bit longer, because you won't get the actual market value for that 1964 coin. So it'll be in your best interest to hold on to it a little bit longer until the paper is completely hyperinflated and the coins become scarce. Then at that point, that one 1964 quarter, by that time I can imagine the people catching on and realizing that they need something substantial in the form of sound money. So more people might be aware of the value of that coin or the dime or whatever it is that you're looking to exchange for. You can probably get more bang for your buck. Or in another case, when there's some issuance of a new currency, then you can probably exchange that quarter for whatever the readjusted valuation will be for that instrument, whether it's the possibility of a Fed coin or the Treasury issued note, a Treasury coin, or whatever the solution might be. So that's just my thoughts. Just my thoughts. We have here Google dynamic bond yield curve. Yep, that'll be a good way to do it. Google it. You can get some better information. See, okay, I'm guessing it's free. It's fee the credit companies charge business. It's the 3% fee, I think. I know it's Bank of America removing ATM from a popular area today. They don't want you to use cash. Yes, cash will become a problem for them because they won't have enough. And the fear of printing too much initially will cause hyperinflationary problems. And so also I got a visual aid that I want to put together that really summarizes and really begins to nail in on the dollarcation aspect of understanding the dollar, the education behind the dollar. And the visual aid will show you exactly where we stand as far as the physical and the digital. So it's going to be very eye-opening. So definitely stay on the lookout for that. What else we got here? Say, Josh, what city was there? Move ATMs from? Question: what skills should people need to know when we get into a complete economic collapse? What skills? Oh man, I would imagine. Of course, I've never been in one before, other than just what I've read and what I've studied. Anything you can do with your hands, anything that is of value to other people, such as gardening, carpentry work. If you can build a shed out of some trees, you're gonna be a bad boy. And so the problem is in the Western world, especially in the day and age we're living in now, not too many people actually have any skill sets outside of outside of digital, outside of computerized stuff. Most people can manage their phones or whatnot. Most people can't get out into the fields and dig holes and plant stuff and grow stuff. And if you can farm, if you know how to work with agriculture and stuff like that, man, that's some stuff that'll be worthwhile, of which I'm guilty of it myself. Other than just having a creative mind that can just create and produce stuff, yeah, I'm gonna get a lot of exercise trying to figure out how to exist in a world like that. Did you see all these people rioting, protests on May Day all over the world rioting? Yeah, I did not. Even though I saw various stories on different protests and marches, I didn't know they were rioting. But yet, I heard from what I did see, it was predominantly down in Central and South America, excuse me, where a lot of people were doing it the most. And it's more so just a demonstration of people being fed up. So I wonder whether it is a actual movement amongst the people, or is it inspired by some third party or external force trying to stir up problems in those countries where it took place at. So yeah, I always question stuff like that, because most people, if they have, you know, if I see a large amount of people out rioting and protesting, such as the Black Lives Matters and the March for 15, I imagine unless you're getting paid for that, you got better stuff to do with your time. And so I always question, you know, how those things start. And so you never know who's actually footing the bill for those people that get out there in March. Price of silver by this time next year. Austin, good question. In my opinion, I think it's irrelevant. Once again, I'm not a big follower of price. I believe at the end of the day, it's not, you know, exactly how much in regards to nominal price the silver is worth, but it's more so the weight. How heavy are you, my friend? How much do you have in exchange for the next medium of exchange after this whole restructuring that takes place? So the heavier you are, the better, as opposed to the actual price of a single round, in my opinion. Firewood will be a good commodity. Yeah, anything that people need will be worthwhile. Any thoughts on QAnon? Yeah, Nicodemus. I mentioned that in a prior video. Not really sure who Nicodemus is as far as how he gets down, who he is, what he does, what entity it is, other than the fact that a lot of people put a lot of hope and confidence into it. So I would imagine that it's a viable source if people are willing to follow after and wait for the next post or whatever. So I don't really follow it much, just because, I mean, apart from the things happening behind the scene, as far as what's happening with the administration and in our government, everything else is pretty much straightforward and obvious. You know, we're running on fumes as far as our economy is concerned. The world around us is moving away from us in this de-dollarization process. So I don't really need to know much other than just how this whole the scandals behind Washington, D.C. and our politicians will come out. And I'm looking forward to finding out who's all those allegations and as well as indictments that are supposedly waiting to be released. So I'm curious to hear about all that. Meek Man, question, sir. Do you think all countries are aligned in bed together in regard to their currency war? Yes, I do. And actually, I came across something, an article I think a couple days ago, doing some research. And it talks about how the central banks are all in cahoots together to make sure that they keep the same posture as far as the idea of the exchange rates amongst their currencies, because we no longer are under a commodity-backed currency. Everyone is free floating their currency, and some have pegged it to other countries. And so the ones that are pegged, as more countries are getting away from that, but the countries that are pegged to one another, those are the countries that need to make sure that they have some type of agreement to keep it even, so that one country's not getting the upper hand. But the G5 or the G7 rather, the world dominating currencies, i.e. Japan, the renminbi now, the pound, the dollar, and whatever else is included. I can't think off the cuff, but those are the nations that are of more concern, because they're the ones that are leading this currency war, because it's a race to the bottom. Everyone's trying to outdo one another in regards to being able to export more with very little concern on the cost of importing. And so exporting is a way to keep the business sector going. And it's more important about keeping the Apples, the GEs, and all those companies selling products so they can keep people employed. They're not really concerned with here on the homeland that if the dollar depreciates more than it already has, it means higher cost of living for each and every one of us. So that's not their concern. They want to make sure that exports are booming. And then, so if you have China concerned with their exports, and of course their economy is built upon exporting stuff, and our economy is built upon consumption, we can't have this big trade deficit, because that's a major disconnect. So there has to be some type of balance there. But how do you do that at this point? Not quite sure. It says, what type of employment will be the last to go away? Last type of employment. I don't know, Austin, your guess is as good as mine. I can imagine that anyone in the technology sector dealing with AI and dealing with robotics will be around, because a part of the restructuring process after this monetary, hiccup will be technology-based jobs. So those that are good with computers, those that are good with programming, those are good with the artificial intelligence, which is being positioned as that next wave of employment. For the big businesses, anybody can program a robot might be a bad boy all the way throughout, in my opinion. So as we are approaching the 10-minute mark, we're getting a lot of great chit chat here. I actually want to go to the comment section real quick. So if anybody want to chime in, give me a call. We got a couple minutes. We got 9 minutes and 42 seconds to take live calls. So this is the time to call in and be short and concise with your question, and I'll get to it or propose it to the audience, whatever is best. But I want to get to these comments, because there's a lot of great comments today. And so I'll go right through them quickly. It says Social Security and most pensions are a scam and have already entered the Ponzi scheme stage. Those statistics that trust in bogus government promises will be screwed. Very good point there. Says, hey Mike, please continue making the snippets from live talks, because I'm able to catch them all. So I will do that. Great video. Every week I enjoy SS being stolen from my wages. I sweat for it. I also trust my saviors to keep the scam going for another 35 years so I can collect. That's a good one. Sorry, as a private sector employee who has to pay a large portion of my health care, invest in my 401k and financial portfolio, cry me a river. Why do you get a pay increase automatically and mask it behind the children? That was in regards to the pension crisis. Here we have a question from IOU. It says, Mike, excluding gold and silver, which one is better to hold during a monetary collapse? $100 worth of quarters from the U.S. Treasury Mint, or $100 worth of $1 notes from the Federal Reserve? Which one is better to hold during a monetary collapse? Ooh, monetary collapse. Man, that's a great question. And so just to use the words monetary collapse, it's going to be in phases, in my point. Like I mentioned earlier, during a monetary collapse, the beginning of it, I believe paper will do you well, because confidence in paper hasn't been lost at that point, because it's going to be a deflationary credit freeze. So paper will move fairly easy, because people will lack paper. But then in the middle to end the stages of the collapse, when people lose faith in paper, then the coinage will be worthwhile, because there'll be a shortage of paper, because people are going to still hoard it, unfortunately, as it inflates away. But then quarters with, things with silver. So U.S. Treasury Mint, quarters will be ideal. I'm not sure the difference between post-65 and pre-64 coins, as far as people wanting them or not. I'm not sure, but then that's when having fractional amounts of silver will probably serve you best, in my opinion. So I'm talking about 1 gram, 5 grams. Those will be true monetary assets for those that are aware. It says, great video, like it usual. I'm 66 on Social Security in my early 20s. The whole idea of sitting around doing nothing effective never sat well with me. I'm not a paralegal or authorized social representative. This does disability cases. Great self-employment. Catherine Austin Fitz found 21 trillion missing from the budget over 20-something years. Yes, and so that whole idea of Catherine Austin Fitz mentioned about the budgeting, 21 trillion been missing. Yeah, cry me a river. It's not coming back, because wherever it is located, it's probably into all those things that we are not really ready to hear about in the space studies and the deep, dark, secret stuff. So, yeah. Someone says, I don't expect anything from Social Security. I know I am being robbed on every payday. Yeah, aren't we all? Aren't we all? So, yeah, that's some good questions there. And there's a lot more comments there. Silver Star says, Mike, I read from a reliable source that about 250 million is circulated in the U.S. still. My husband thinks we always be able to order up this 100K and skip home. He called me crazy when I bought Bitcoin. Had $470, 680. I'm joking today. Told him many times not to look at my cash, gold, and crypto with a bank bill. Very good one, Silver Star. Very good one. So yeah, that's interesting, man. So we got 5 minutes and 44 seconds. I wanted to try to do something different and keep it short and keep it real, keep it flowing smoothly. So here's a good time to call in. Whoever tried to call in earlier, sorry for rejecting your call, but yet this is the time for you to do it if you're still tuned in. It says we got universal income after reset. Ooh, that's a good one, Zulu. Universal income. I believe that's probably factored in, but yet that could be one of the many cards that they attempt to roll out, just because, yeah, we don't know. We don't know how it's going to play out, because most people will have a lack of confidence in anything coming from the government initially. So there's going to be need for something that people can hold in their hand still and feel. So I'd imagine universal income would probably best be served if it's digitized in regards to a some type of blockchain based / it's going to be a digital, because it's not going to be cash. So it's going to be either, and I posted prior videos, your social security number might end up being your blockchain number with this Fed coin, Treasury coin. And so something be issued through that. But then once again, it's digital, so you can't hold it. But if you can spend and buy something right away, it might work for you. So, but we have a caller. Let's find out what's going on. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Jeff. I'm calling from St. Petersburg, Florida.
John, how you doing, my friend?
Good. Hey, I just wanted to ask you a quick question. What's your thoughts on T-Mobile and Sprint merging the other day? And what do you think about this 5G network that they're about to roll out? How do you think that's going to impact people's daily life? What's your thoughts on all of that?
Good point. Good question. I'm familiar with the merger, and I know it's all about, of course, profit and just basically monopolizing the cell phone and communications industry in general. So we're going to have two major. We're going to have Sprint, Verizon and AT&T, Sprint and T-Mobile competing against each other. And so those two right there, in of itself, competition is good. But when you factor in our 5G stuff, that stuff, according to what I've seen, it is very dangerous, because it is considered more of it has so many hidden things behind it. Of course, it's being positioned as something that's going to make things faster and easier. But I'm fine with 4G right now. But I guess, to get ready for this, connecting our cars, connecting our smart homes, and connecting all this stuff, that stuff is going to be needed. And the goal is, of course, to basically remove all our privacy. So if you got everything smart, there's going to be loopholes to that. So the 5G, I think, will be beneficial for the powers that be, but dangerous to our health, because I'm starting to dig into this whole, understanding frequency waves and things like that. And so it's all uncharted waters. So we don't know how serious these waves are going to be, because all this technology stuff is still new in regards to what it's going to do to our body. So I'm skeptical, put it like that. Very skeptical.
Okay, good. Well, what do you think about that when they're talking about, driverless cars and this 5G network, and how it's going to tie into everybody's, cars and their electronics and TVs and smart TVs and appliances and all that?
I am very skeptical of it. I am not a fan of it, but that's the way all this is heading towards to make everything smart, so that we can become lazier and more dependent upon some form of a service or technology. So I think it's inevitable. I mean, all our cars are going to be smart eventually, and so I'm not for it. I personally like my old school classics, but if people are going to be forced to participate at the end of the day. So that's my opinion, but I'm not for it myself. tonight. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section on this format. And other than that, everybody enjoy your night. Make sure you share this if you find this informative. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow night. I want to try to come up with a better schedule. So other than that, everybody have a good evening. It's been real, sweet, simple, and short. Hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to catching up with you guys again. Enjoy your evening.